Hello, my name is Adam, and today we're going to be talking about the Philippines, and specifically the economy of the Philippines. The date is April 12, 2020, and my student number is 105-646-178. So firstly, an introduction about the Philippines. The population as of 2018 is over 100 million now, over 106 million. The GDP as of 2018 is calculated in US dollars, and it's $330.9 billion. And the GDP per capita as of 2018 is $30,102.71, and that's in US currency. The first graph I've created is the real GDP of the Philippines, shown in US dollars, and with a constant of 2010. On the y-axis, we have the real GDP in US dollars, and on the x-axis, we have the year. Overall, from the graph, we see a linear pattern, but I do notice during the 2008 to 2009 period, the real GDP almost looks flat, showing a very small amount of growth for that period, and that is due to the US recession, which affected many countries, including the Philippines, which we will discuss in next slides. The second slide I've created is the real GDP growth rate, shown as an annual percentage. On the y-axis, we have the growth rate as a percentage, and on the x-axis, we have the year. Overall, we see a volatile graph, especially during the 2008 and 2009 periods, which show steep declines. This is again due to the US recession having an impact on the Philippines economy, which resulted in 2009 growth of less than 2%, which is reflected on the first graph as well. The next graph I've created shows the real GDP per capita of the Philippines using 2010 deflator. On the y-axis, we have the GDP per capita in US billions of dollars. On the x-axis, we have the year. Overall, we see a linear pattern, like the real GDP graph, but during the 2008 to 2009 period, we actually see a slight decline in year-over-year growth, which we will discuss more in the next slide. This graph shows the GDP per capita growth rate shown as an annual percentage. On the y-axis, we have the growth rate reflected as a percentage. On the x-axis, we have the year. This graph is also very volatile, especially during the 2008 and 2009 period, that showed steep decline, which resulted in a negative growth rate year over year. This period shows a recession period in the Philippines economy, and this is due to the US recession, which impacted many of the Philippines' major exporting goods. The next graph we see here is the population growth over time, and this is from 2000 to 2018. And then we can see we start off with over 75 million people, and then eventually in 2018 we cross over 100 million people, and it looks like the Philippines crossed that mark in 2015. Overall, this pattern is very linear, and overall we see the population rising over time. But as we see on the next slide, we'll take a look at the population growth rate over time and how that changes. So on this graph here, we have the population growth rate over time in the Philippines. On the y-axis, we have the population shown as a percentage of the growth rate. And on the x-axis, we have the year. Overall, we can see from 2000 to 2018 that even though the slide above was very linear, always showing a increasing pattern, we see over time it is actually increasing slower. So it starts off at around 2.2% and in 2000, and we can see that by the end, it's less than 1.5% year-over-year growth, meaning the Philippines country is growing a lot quicker than it was 2 decades ago. The next slide. which is a graph, and it shows the unemployment rate of the Philippines. And each period is a percentage of the labor force. And this is shown as a graph over time from 2000 to 2018. The y-axis shows a unemployment rate shown as the percentage, and the x-axis is the year. Overall, we see what we notice the most is 2000 to 2002, which is a large unemployment rate. In that period, the Philippines was going through a economic slowdown during like most of the world internationally, which resulted in them having a large stop to the economy, and over time that came back down under 4%. And then we see that again rising up during the 2008 recession, coming to close to about 4%. But we can see that their unemployment rate as percent of the labor force wasn't impacted as much as 2000 to 2002, as much as the US recession affected them. So the last graph here shows the inflation rate over time, and this is calculated as an annual percentage. On the y-axis, we have the inflation rate shown as a percentage, and then on the x-axis, we have the year. So over time, we can see a volatile graph, but we can mainly see during the 2008 period, it spikes up over 8%. And then in the 2015 period, we see it very low, close to 1%.